Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Zhao, here with the CLR version. I'm a little late to this event. There's a lot I wanted to cover in this update, and this event seemed like easily the least interesting. So I'm late for the discount coupon, but you probably already know it's not the best value, but it's still a nice opportunity to go over the Zhao and its legendary upgrade. I think the legendary upgrade or unique upgrade for Zhao is one of the best options out of all the legendary upgrades. It makes this ship so powerful. It just does more of what this ship wants to do. And I suppose that draws comparisons to some of the other more recent legendary upgrades that, in my opinion, are just a buff to the ship. Things like Colombo, things like the Guden. Well, that one I'm not a huge fan of just because playing against airstrikes isn't very fun. But here with Zhao, getting better dispersion and a bit more range is exactly what Zhao wants. You're going to notice that the alpha damage of these shells is incredibly high, and that's partially down to the Japanese high explosive, but also we're hitting so many shells consistently on enemy ships that we do very good damage, even without taking things like heavy HE or going for a full lighthouse build. The problem with Zhao, though, is going to be your turret angles and generally a pretty squishy ship. This has okay HP, but the turret angles forcing you to give 45 degrees of broadside when pushing in or looking forward is rough to fire all of your guns. Kiting, it's only 42. Which, you know, isn't that good for a cruiser that has 30 millimeters of armor and an exposed Citadel. Zhao has some troll armor, yes, but that's troll armor from like 2015. It's nowhere near the troll armor we have today. So you are very vulnerable these days. So playing around islands is going to be very important. Not something you always are able to do with such good shell velocity, which Zhao certainly has. It's really easy to hit your targets at almost all ranges, even with spotter plane. But it means playing around islands is a little more difficult, so we need to find more creative positions to take. And there are some maps where that is just not possible, so you have to do the open water thing. Fortunately, when you slow down and turn away from battleship shells, they often just go in the water because shells land short as the game goes these days. Decent damage into this Satsuma already. Nice amount of fires and ADK in a little over 5 minutes into this match. This is a great position to take if there's no carrier in the game and there's no one spotting through this little gap. You can do some really good damage into the spawn for the enemy ships without being spotted at all in return. Enemy Colbert pushing in, so potential that we get some AP slaps this game. There's also a Brisbane over here. Buffing your dispersion on already one of the best dispersion cruisers in the game means that anytime you're fighting light cruisers, AP is going to be a great option. Colbert is turning and going broadside, perhaps repositioning. So we want to be ready for that. This is going to be a very small gap, but in this gap, I should be able to spot him. So we're going to swap over to our AP, and actually I really enjoy Gunfeeder on this ship, allowing you to swap between the AP and HE. Even though it's mostly an HE ship, well, the AP is good enough that I want to be using it. Let's go aiming system. Don't fail me now over this island. And nearly the one shot. 4 Citadels right there. And just barely getting that salvo over the island. Spot the Yamagiri even, although we are going to leave this position. Don't want to get one shot by a Satsuma salvo or over the island, for example. We'll go to the middle of the map. Zhao concealment is very nice, around that 10 kilometers. Much better than the Henry we took a look at the end of last week. Even full conceal, Henry is like 13 kilometers. Oftentimes you're running lighthouse on that ship because it can. And I gotta say, playing Zhao as well as Henry, it's really nice to have the extra concealment on the Zhao. And the better dispersion. That's one of the reasons that I commented on the Henry dispersion in some of those videos. This update is I've been playing a little bit of Zhao for this video, and I mean Zhao with the legendary upgrade, it's pretty hard to beat that dispersion on a heavy cruiser. Hindenburg here going to take some massive damage. That's really the benefit, I suppose, of the Zhao legendary upgrade. You don't have the best DPM, but you're guaranteeing massive damage per salvo with this, where you're not going to be missing that many shells down to dispersion. It's more down to bad aim, which certainly can be a problem for myself as well. Into destroyers, kind of the original Venezia, I suppose, where we have some massive alpha damage and good accuracy, allowing us to not quite one-shot like Venezia Sap will, but it's big damage. We do collect the B cap here, and now the enemy team is pushing on the 9-10 line. Enemy teams pushing in is always where a Zhao wants to be. So for this ship, it's great news for us that a Wisconsin, Brisbane, maybe some AP again, are pushing in. And we're going to get behind this island, but we can go open water against a Wisconsin here because it has 406s. Zhao has 30 millimeters of armor, so we can do some auto bouncing there, assuming we're angled enough. We can't be greedy, though, for all of our turrets is going to be the key here. And we want to get around this island enough that I can turn without having to ground on this island. Torpedo tubes are also a problem for this ship. Not that the torps are bad. They actually do very good damage. Like 12 kilometers of range is very nice. It's just the firing angles of them are even worse than your main guns. So you got to show massive broadside to actually fire them. If we're looking at some sort of Super Zhao coming in the future, that'd be the one thing I'd want fixed, is the firing angles. I honestly don't really need that much more damage output from the guns or the torps. Just give me comfortable firing angles. It's a big problem with the Zhao. Fortunately, though, we do dodge the Wisconsin salvo and get an okay hit into the Brisbane there. Another Citadel is nice. 156,000 damage, but now we're flanking. We're reasonably quick, so we can get over to the flank here. Brisbane pops out broadside, and look at the dispersion. I mean, it's just beautiful, guys. It is so nice to play this after some battleships where you find a Brisbane, maybe not a Brisbane. Brisbane's got such a giant Citadel, but other cruisers, and you miss the Citadel entirely. The dispersion is all over the place. Well, with the legendary upgrade, Zhao does not have to worry about that. I will say, though, with this CLR version, it's not as interesting to me like the Kleber CLR might have been, where Kleber has a very unique legendary upgrade playstyle where it massively improves your concealment, but gives you essentially no firepower on the main guns. So you're mostly a torpedo build Kleber then, which is a very different playstyle, I guess we'll say. And having a premium version of the Kleber allows you to have both a gun build as well as a torp build one, which is kind of interesting. Zhao, though, the legendary upgrade just fits so well with the standard ship that I wouldn't be interested in getting Zhao CLR for that reason at all. Notice we took pretty good damage there from that Azuma. Didn't get one shot, fortunately, but we are a vulnerable broadside. Colbert, again, another light cruiser broadside, another 4 Citadels. Nearly 200k damage, and for a Zhao, we have more Citadel hits than fires. Not every day that happens, I gotta say. So having this legendary upgrade is very nice for that AP, as well as the high explosive. Might even get ourselves up over 200k here. Last HE salvo, it's pretty long range, but that's 10,000 damage. And we manage it. So not even running heavy AP here. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. The Lighthouse build is very awkward to use. If you're not having the legendary upgrade yet or unique upgrade yet, I would say run range mod on this ship, actually. Only 24k from fires in that game on 11 of them. So yeah, I mean, not too much fire damage there, allowing for a 200k game still. The alpha damage is a big deal. We saw that with Henry the other day, that we don't necessarily need the Witherers, the fire damage, to do massive damage output. And that's kind of the benefit of the heavy cruisers over the light cruisers. You get more alpha damage, more consistent pen. Now, speaking of interesting positions around islands, I've pretty much never gone here, certainly not with a Zhao. Seems a little bit risky. Most of the carrier games, you would never ever go here because you're just the easiest target in the world to get struck over and over and over again. As well as it being a rather low island, so any plane spotting means it's not a very useful island. And we get plane spotted. So I've got to be a little bit more passive. But getting into creative positions like this can be a good thing for a Zhao even. In this case, our torpedo firing angles do allow for us to get torps off if someone were to rush us. And that's really the saving grace here, outside of just having a Schlieffen, Ruprecht, and Zeton. We've got the whole tier 8 to tier 10 German battlecruiser secondary line here on our flanks, so that's going to help deter anybody from pushing us as well. I probably should swap to the AP here for the Carl, but I'm a little bit greedy for the multiple fires, and we still do nearly 5k damage. I'm a little greedy for multiple fires, though, when I'm playing Zhao or any of these heavy cruisers with very, very high fire chance. You're almost guaranteed fires if you're landing your salvos in the correct spot. Of course, if you hit somewhere already on fire, well, you can't really light them up again. So we should aim for multiple points on the superstructure. Missed my aim point on that earlier shot, and Carl gets behind the island. So no extra fire for us, but it's still decent damage. And yeah, the enemy team is going to get pushed back here rather quickly. Kagero pushing. What is this? Look at this damage. Sure, it's a stock Kagero, so 13,000 HP, but nearly the one shot. That's the original version of the Venice against destroyers, I suppose. You don't have the smoke, you don't have the sap, you don't have the 15 shells. We got 12 shells that do very, very good damage and are much more accurate as well. So you don't see it much anymore, but back in the day in clan battles sometimes you would actually see Zhaos running the flank with a destroyer, and that would be a very potent combo. Although now that Venice is in the game, you don't really see that anymore. It just does that role a little bit better. Amagi had damage control to fire, so getting greedy for another fire, ignoring the low health Carl. Zhao is pretty comfortable to play though. When you're not fighting against carriers, that extra spotting is so much more difficult to deal with. This is a ship that wants to play around concealment, wants to play around islands, not fire all the time on cooldown. There's good opportunities to use your concealment to get into better positions and then start shooting again. And carriers make that much, much more difficult. The passive games, though, at tier 10 can be a problem, of course, for a ship that has 17, 18 kilometers of range with the range mod upgrade even. It's not even 19 kilometers, I don't think. So very problematic when you get those very passive games. Super ship games, of course, can be very difficult, but patience required. Although Zhao isn't too bad these days, thanks to some of the buffs it's had. The HP pool getting up to nearly 50k here. It used to be Zhao would barely have over 40k HP, where we didn't have the survivability expert, I don't think. Nah, that was a long time ago that change happened, actually. But still, we got more HP than we used to, which helps out a ton. There's the Arsonist. I mean, we still just burn battleships so well. And using the Schlieffen there as a little bit of help to dodge that Amagi salvo works pretty well. Zhao versus Zhao fights are always very interesting, where you both have no armor relative to each other, and you have to give so much broadside to shoot all of your guns and get that DPM going. So you're basically just slapping one another for maximum damage, and whoever has more HP to start with often is going to win. Or help, obviously, if there's help. But yeah, it's tough to fight a Zhao as a Zhao. It's not the best engagement. Dodging is very difficult thanks to the accuracy and the shell velocity. And yeah, you're not really shattering much. There's another 6k into him. And he's pretty low, so he'd be quite saturated at this point. So 141 here, not quite as much damage, but a very weird position to take at the start. Thanks to that concealment, and of course, no carrier, allowing for concealment to matter a little bit more here. Of course, don't recommend the Zhao CLR. I feel like I've said that already, but let me state it explicitly. Do not recommend spending your money on a tech tree ship. So much money, in fact. And that discount coupon is gone at this point as well. Just grinding the tech tree ships like this is always going to be my recommendation here, instead of buying these premium versions, as you can get them for free. Although it takes a little bit of time, certainly. It's still a lot of money to spend on what is a ship you can earn for free over time just by playing the game. This ship, though, does get this, like, Need for Speed Underground 2 pearlescent paint, shifting to blue from green here, which none of the other CLR versions have got so far, so that's kind of interesting. Certainly a different choice. Might not be to your taste, but it is there. As for the build, though, that I was running, looked a little something like this. Kind of overdoing it on low tier skills, perhaps, not taking things like top grade gunner, but Zhao is often outside of its 9.9 kilometer detection, and I want things like Eye in the Sky to help me in those longer range games get back to our spotter plane that much quicker. The reload here being 13.7 is fine. It's not anything special though. Taking reload mod though means you very much lack the range. I really want gun feeder. I really want grease the gears. These turrets are incredibly slow. Something I didn't mention yet, but that's another reason the ship feels a little bit uncomfortable. Turret angles, but also the turret traverse speed. And then just taking some upgrades to help us live a little bit from those longer range incoming salvos. Demo expert to get us up to 22% fire chance. Not required, really. You still have great fire chance, but it's a little bit of an extra bonus. The legendary upgrade though, plus 8% range and 7% dispersion. I mean, that is just very, very strong on this ship. Otherwise, I would recommend the range upgrade. You get double the improvement to range, 8% up to 16%. And notice there's no penalty here to our turret traverse on this legendary upgrade, where if you're taking reload mod, you do lose 13% turret traverse, which is kind of painful. They recommend reload here, which I don't agree with. I don't think the range is enough at these tiers. 16.2 on a ship like this, I don't think so. You're not like a Des Moines where you can sit on islands as easy. I did it in this video, but it's harder to find islands that work thanks to the very good shell velocity. Propulsion mod helping us dodge a little bit, although we're not speed juking like a Henry, that's for sure. Armor wise, yeah, it's 30. You're getting overmatched a lot these days, although Zhao is much smaller than the Henry, which is fortunate. 25 on the bow, no icebreaker. And then your Citadel is above water. It is vulnerable here. There's no spaced armor or anything like that. It's kind of troll armor. You'd still get one shot though. It's 2015 World of Warships troll armor, which is very different than the troll armor that we have today with all the spaced armor plating and all that stuff. That's going to do it for the Zhao today, a very powerful legendary upgrade on a okay tier 10. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.